What's up? This is Tesseract, Natural Disaster. I did one song off of this album that came out last year. Dug it. I just haven't listened to a whole lot of Tesseract, so I'm going to try to do some more. I'm familiar with their earlier work way back in the day when they were kind of on the front of the gent scene, but it's been a while since I've listened to them. So this is the album that dropped last year. Tesseract, Natural Disaster. Here we go. Some soft voices and I think that's a snare roll with this riff. The riff is isolated left. Oh. Yes. This is the Tesseract I remember. Very, very rounded sound. Production-wise. Love this groove, obviously. That was a weird transition. There's my timing, okay. I love the riff. There's a really high, is that another guitar track or is that synths? I think it's synths. It's snare. Wow. Ooh, yes. I mean, if you know me, this is it right here. I think this is the groove right here. Ugh. Listen to that tom, or those toms. I could sit here all day and do this. Just so syncopated. Nice. Is that a guitar or is that just a track that they were playing there? So much groove here, dude. Listen to those toms. Very, Egyptian, Middle Eastern vibes, obviously. Listen to that riff kind of ascend there. Ooh. The guitar tone here. Still very rounded. Kind of MIDI, like mid-heavy, the guitar. Still got the blinking kind of ding, 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 ding. Like 2 or 3 different vocal tracks were ascending, Ooh. I don't remember those vocals from him. That sounded good though. I'm struggling to remember if this is the same as the quote-unquote chorus earlier. That was a crazy fill, by the way, that I just talked over. This sounds angry. Do it. Do it. Okay. Ugh. Ooh. Whoa. I would have taken this as the actual chorus, but it's here nor there. That's interesting. Very grand, this feeling with these synths way up here. Oh wow. We have 2 minutes left. Sounds great. Didn't expect this, but I mean, sounds like at least 2 different vocal tracks. Adding the lead, obviously, and then adding all these like guitars, adding the bass, I think. Yeah. What are we building towards? This is gonna be the genty chorus. This is gonna be that climbing chorus. Fine. Yeah. We're just right here. I like the kick pattern. Given it some life, this could be a lot less bouncy if the kick wasn't doing this. We're doing this again. You gotta end with some more crushing heaviness. I feel it. I really like the background ambience. Love the sound of the kit. Love the sound of the snare. Really? You're not gonna give us... Okay. It just seems like a weird way to end the first track on your album. Because like, it's slowing down so much, very finale-esque. It's got a conclusion here. I want to make sure we don't skip into a new song right away. Huh. So a lot of cool stuff going on there. That was the first track off of the album War of Being by Tesseract. That was Natural Disaster. Definitely not what I expected to hear right away, but that makes me feel a lot better about this album. This sounds a lot closer to the old Tesseract that I knew. I think, was it Nocturne or One? I don't know if I'm mixing those up or they're two separate albums or maybe one's a song. But when I think of that era of Tesseract, much more kind of that darker, gentler, less refined sound. Um, this one had the very refined production. I mean, I think I made a comment right away about how rounded the sound was, and I'll come back to that. But yeah, I mean, stylistically, this is much more kind of what I was going for, hoping for from these dudes. And they still had a lot of the what I would call the proggy progressive. I mean, I throw way too many labels out there because I'm lazy, and so if you disagree with me, I apologize. But I hopefully you know what I'm talking about here. But more of that kind of progressive nature of some of the sounds that they started using later in their career were part of this track and really more influential in the, I guess, like the choruses, if you want to call those choruses, not the genty choruses, but like the kind of those climbing, um, calmer. I don't know how else to describe it. It had the layered guitar work instead of just the genty riffing going on, like the genty syncopated riffs. It was not that part. It was kind of the ascending layered guitar tracks, some of which almost like a synth or a synth that's made to sound like a clav or something like that. Um, really appreciated the difference between those two styles, and they both kind of seemed like chorus sections. So that, I mean, it points towards that progressive nature of their songwriting structure, and I'll try to talk a little bit now about the sound. Like, I feel like their sound on this song is extremely processed and like condensed, and not like in the way that it's almost like tinny in that word, in the sense where it's like staticky or something like that. It feels so perfected and so uh, inorganic, I guess is the best way to put it. And that's not, it sounds bad, but it's not meant to be. It's a choice. It's a stylistic choice. Like you can tell like I think back to I don't know, like what I would the most the easiest comparison I can think of right now is like the most recent era album compared to the one before that, the self-titled. Self-titled felt much more like this, uh, very like a rounded sound. Even though theirs was much more bottom heavy, the production just sounded so perfect and so crisp and so clean. It just gave that impression of being very a round kind of sound. And I may be using that terminology incorrectly, but that's the impression it gives me. And so their era's most recent album that came out sounded a lot less refined, a lot more raw, a lot more organic for them. Still not compared to some other bands out there. You know, they're still era, so they're gonna have a very clean sound no matter what. but it felt production wise, it felt like they were going for a little bit less of that overproduced, and I don't mean that in a terrible way, but less of that kind of a style. And that's what I'm hearing here a lot. Just a very full, well-rounded, well-produced. Some may call it overproduced. It just sounds that way, and it's noticeable. And with those, I would say that it certainly isn't a super bottom heavy sound, but the bottom it definitely carries the mix. Hopefully that makes sense. Like, and I would say this going back to some of Tesseract's earlier work as well. It's also very bottom heavy. Uh, whether it's the bass track or the guitar tone, or even the kicks or the toms. An emphasis on having that carry the mix is what I felt here. Um, and I would even take more of that. I mean, I think I made a couple comments about their guitar, their main guitar tone being a little bit too MIDI, or I guess I don't want to say too MIDI. Just it seemed mid focus, and hey, I would take more of that kind of low end just for my own personal preference. Clearly, it's their work, it's their choice, and it stood out. I think in a couple parts in the middle, just a very unique tone to the guitar, riffing they were doing there, and it wasn't the riffing itself; it was the tone they were using. It really just kind of it hits you in a certain way, and that's why I felt like it was so mid focused. It really just comes through in a way that hits your ears differently. I don't really know how to say it. Obviously, their riffing is crazy. I mean, this is Tesseract. They have, I think, if I remember right, two of the best guitarists in the genre. Josh Brown and what's the dude's name? Axel something. Old dudes, old guard. So they know what they're doing, and they are very, very, very creative, very genty, very syncopated. Uh, yeah, I mean, I'm all about it, all about it. I would take more bass in some places, like more noticeable bass, but they do it enough for a band like this in a genre that doesn't have a whole lot of noticeable bass work. I would say they do probably more than enough, more than most bands do. I would always just take more because that's what I look for. Vocally, I heard a couple of parts where he sounded very different, or at least was doing stylistic things that I'm not used to from them. But that's also maybe because I just don't listen to them enough. If I got more familiar with their work, I may think that's less weird. But it seemed like he was going for more kind of like the scream yelling in parts of this, and some actual screaming, if I remember right, in this. And he always has kind of the soaring. I don't even know if you want to call that clean, but it's definitely a very melodic kind of tone. He carries that very well, fits the music well, especially when they go a little bit more proggy. Yeah, awesome stuff. And oh yeah, it was the guttural screams that were more different. I've heard him scream before, obviously, but it sounded. I think he did some very, very, very lows in this, if I remember right. I'm gonna have to go back, but I just don't remember much of that in Tesseract's old work. And if they're trying to incorporate elements of that kind of stuff in their new work, which it seems like, hey, this is a nice blend of both sides of Tesseract. If you want to look at them from two different ways, I am all about it, and I'm excited to look up more. This was Natural Disaster by Tesseract. Thanks for watching.